Welcome back to Just MS News, where we take the most important multiple sclerosis news of the week and break down what they could actually mean for people living with MS. This week, could your eyes help us understand cognitive progression before it becomes obvious? And finally, potential remyelination treatment is moving toward human testing. And the bigger story might be just how many different approaches researchers are now taking to repair myelin. It's an exciting week, exciting time for MS research. Let's get into the first story. Last week, we looked at the eyes and MS. Specifically, we looked at how the optic nerve is now being incorporated into the updated McDonald criteria and how that could help some people receive an MS diagnosis earlier. Well, this week we're going back to the eyes, but for a completely different reason. Researchers are asking whether a relatively simple eye scan could potentially give us an early warning about future cognitive progression in multiple sclerosis. And here's that term we've talked a lot about recently: PIRA, progression independent of relapse activity. Except this time, researchers weren't just looking at physical disability. They're looking at cognitive PIRA. The study followed 98 people with MS for approximately 5 years. At the beginning of the study, researchers used optical coherence tomography, or OCT, to take extremely detailed measurements of different layers of the retina. If you've never had OCT before, it's a non-invasive imaging test. There's no radiation. It doesn't involve an MRI machine, and the scan itself can be done relatively quickly. Researchers were particularly interested in layers containing nerve fibers and cells that are part of the pathway carrying visual information from eyes to your brain. And that's important because your retina isn't completely separate from what's happening in your brain. The retina and optic nerve are part of the central nervous system. So researchers have increasingly been interested in whether changes we can measure in the eye could provide a window in some of the neurodegeneration occurring in MS. The researchers then followed participants over time and tested their cognition every year. They use a group of tests known as BICAMS, which looks at 3 important areas: processing speed, verbal learning and memory, and visual memory. And they were pretty strict about what they considered cognitive progression. Someone's cognitive performance had to decline more than 10%. The decline then had to still be present when they were tested again 12 months later. And importantly, it had to happen independent of relapse activity. That's where the cognitive PIRA part comes in. So, what did they find? People who began the study with thinner measurements in certain retinal layers were more likely to experience some forms of cognitive progression later. One of the clearest findings involved the prepapillary retinal nerve fiber layer. Thankfully, we can just call it the PRNFL. Phew. For every 1 micrometer lower measurement of the retinal layer at the beginning of the study, researchers found about 6% higher risk of later cognitive PIRA involving processing speed. They also found an association between thinning in another retinal layer, the macroganglion cell in the inner plexiform layer, and the later progression involving verbal learning and memory. Now, that does not mean your eye doctor can look at an OCT scan today and tell you whether you're going to experience cognitive decline. We're definitely not there. This was a relatively small study with only 98 participants, and these findings need to be validated in larger groups before OCT could be used as an individual predictive tool. There were also some more complicated results involving in other retinal measurements that weren't as straightforward, but I think the bigger idea here is fascinating. MS progression isn't always obvious. You can have progression occurring outside of relapse, and cognitive changes can be particularly difficult to recognize and measure over time. So researchers are looking at biomarkers that might help identify the progression earlier. and OCT has some appealing characteristics. It's non-invasive, it's relatively quick, and it's already widely used in ophthalmology and increasingly familiar within MS research and care. And unlike some other neurological tests, they're essentially taking incredibly precise measurements of nervous system tissue that you can actually see through your eyes. So imagine a future where monitoring MS isn't based on one measurement. Maybe it's your neurological examination, your MRI, blood biomarkers, cognitive testing, and potentially measurements from your eyes. Each one providing another piece of information about what's happening with your MS. Again, this study does not establish OCT as a predictive tool yet, but it adds to a growing body of research suggesting that the eyes may tell us much more about MS than simply how well we can see. And I find it interesting that for 2 weeks in a row, we've ended up talking about the eye for two completely different reasons. Last week, the optic nerve potentially helping with diagnosis. This week, retinal measurements potentially helping us understand future progression. Sometimes, one of the best places to look at what's happening in the brain might literally be through the eye. One of the biggest unanswered questions in multiple sclerosis is pretty simple to explain. We've become much better at preventing new inflammatory damage, but what about repairing the damage that's already there? And this week, there's another interesting development in the race to remyelinate the nervous system. Researchers in Germany are developing a transdermal patch designed to deliver a very low, steady dose of a drug called theophylline. Theophylline isn't a new drug. It's actually an older medication that's been used for respiratory conditions such as asthma and COPD. But researchers at Johannes Gutenberg University in Mainz have been studying whether those low doses of theophylline could potentially help promote myelin repair. And now they're trying to turn that research into something that could eventually be treated in people. The idea behind the patch is important. Theophylline can cause side effects at higher concentrations, so instead of giving a larger dose all at once, researchers are developing a patch that could release a low and a concentrated amount of the drug through the skin over several days. The project is now moving through additional development work, including optimizing the patch, producing it under pharmaceutical manufacturing standards, and preparing for a phase 1 clinical trial. There's a very important distinction here. This dose does not mean measurements have shown a patch can remyelinate people with MS. They haven't. The first planned human study is expected to involve healthy volunteers. At this stage, researchers are mainly asking questions like, can the patch reliably deliver the drug? Is it tolerated? Does it irritate the skin? And can researchers achieve the concentration they're aiming for? Only after these questions are answered can you start moving toward the much bigger question of whether this approach actually helps repair myelin in people with MS. What caught my attention about this story is it's not happening in isolation. If you've been following Just MS News lately, we've covered a surprising number of different approaches to remyelination. Recently, we talked about lucid MS, a completely different strategy involving a drug designed to inhibit an enzyme called PAD2. Its phase 2 program in progressive MS has been cleared to move forward. We also talked about artificial axon labs. They're trying to build laboratory environments that more accurately reproduce what damaged nervous system tissue looks like in MS. The idea there isn't to create one remyelinating drug themselves. It's to improve the way researchers screen potential treatments and hopefully identify better conditions before removing them into expensive human trials. We also looked at organoid and so-called mini-brain research, where scientists are creating more sophisticated models of human nervous system tissue to study myelin damage and repair. And this week, there's another old drug appearing in the remyelination conversation, nipodopine. Nimodipine. Dopamine is normally used completely different area of medicine, particularly following certain types of bleeding around the brain. But a recent review looked at animal studies exploring nimdapine in models related to demyelination. Across those studies, researchers found signals suggesting it might reduce inflammation and demyelination, protect nerve fibers, and potentially support some aspects of myelin repair. But again, that's preclinical research. We're talking about animal models, not evidence that nimdapine repairs myelin in people with MS. And I actually think that's what makes this whole area interesting right now. There isn't one single remyelination strategy. Researchers are developing entirely new drugs. Some are repurposing medications that have already been used in humans for decades. Some are trying to understand the biology that prevents myelin from repairing itself. And others are improving the laboratory models used to identify which treatments are even worth taking into clinical trials. We're essentially watching a whole remyelination pipeline being built. And for me, this connects directly back to the first story this week. I mentioned that I've been on Ocrevus for years, and I haven't had new lesions during that time. That's incredibly valuable. Preventing new inflammatory damage matters enormously, but stopping new damage and repairing old damage are not the same thing. You can control inflammatory activity very well and still be living with consequences of damage that happened years earlier. That's why remyelination research matters so much. The dream isn't simply to slow and stop MS. It's to eventually restore some of what MS has taken away. We're obviously not there yet. Some of the approaches I mentioned are still in animal models. Some are preparing for their first human trials. Others are moving further into clinical development. And many promising remyelination ideas will probably fail along the way. It's how research works. But when you step back and look at how all these stories come together, something interesting is happening. We're no longer talking about one experimental remyelination drug every few years. We're seeing multiple strategies, multiple technologies and research groups. So it's trying to solve the same fundamental problem. How do you protect the nervous system from new damage? And how do you help repair the damage that's already there? For people living with MS, that second half may ultimately be one of the most important challenges in the entire field. And that's just MS news this week. When you put these three stories together, I think they actually tell a pretty interesting story about where MS research is right now. We're getting better at controlling the disease with highly effective treatments like Ocrevus and Concepta, and potentially making the level of treatment more accessible through options like rituximab. We're getting better at looking for progression, including progression that happens quietly, without a relapse. And researchers are even investigating whether our eyes can help us see some of it coming. And then there's perhaps the biggest challenge of it all, repair. Not just preventing the next lesion, but finding ways to repair some of the damage that already has been done. We're not there yet, but we're seeing some researchers attack that problem from more directions than ever before. Control the disease, understand the progression, and hopefully, one day, stop it and repair the damage. That's the future of MS research, and I think it's worth following. If you'd like to keep following with me, you can find all the resources and weekly digests at www.justmultiplesclerosis.com and any of the socials and podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. And if there's a story this week that stood out to you, join the conversation and let me know what you think. Until next week, I'm Justin. This is Just the Mess News. Thank you. Bum bum.